They say ignorance is bliss, and for the longest time I believed my life was proof of that saying. I was the guy who had it all figured out: a successful career in commercial real estate, a beautiful home in the suburbs of Charlotte, North Carolina, two healthy kids, and a wife I'd loved since college. 23 years of marriage, built on what I thought was an unshakable foundation of trust, shared dreams, and mutual respect. I was the husband who never questioned late nights at the gym, girls' weekends, or the new attention to appearance. I was the fool who believed that good people don't do bad things, that vows meant something permanent, that the life we'd built together was sacred. My name is Robert Callahan, and this is the story of how my world imploded on a Tuesday afternoon in September, when a single phone call from an unknown number shattered 23 years of carefully constructed illusions. This isn't a tale of redemption or forgiveness. This isn't about healing or moving forward with grace. This is about the cold, hard reality of betrayal, the systematic destruction of a family, and what happens when a man who spent his entire adult life playing by the rules discovers that the game was rigged from the start. Some stories have happy endings. Some have lessons wrapped in silver linings. This one has neither. This one has only truth, consequences, and the bitter satisfaction of watching someone who destroyed everything face the full weight of their choices. The call came at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was sitting in my office on the 14th floor of the Piedmont building, reviewing contracts for a strip mall development in Gastonia, when my personal cell phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. Normally, I'd let it go to voicemail. Telemarketers and spam calls were constant. But something made me answer. "Is this Robert Callahan?" The voice was male, young, uncertain. "Speaking. Who's this?" There was a pause, then a breath that sounded like someone gathering courage. "Mr. Callahan, you don't know me. My name is Tyler Bennett. I'm calling because I think you need to know something about your wife." My first instinct was to hang up. Scam calls were getting more sophisticated every day. But something in his voice, a tremor of genuine distress, kept the phone pressed to my ear. "What are you talking about?" "I'm a personal trainer at Elevation Fitness on Providence Road. Your wife, Jennifer, she's been a member there for about 8 months. "I know that," I said, my patience thinning. "She works out there 4 times a week. What's your point?" Another pause. "Mr. Callahan, I'm not calling to cause trouble. I'm calling because I found out yesterday that I'm not the only one. And I thought you deserved to know the truth." The words didn't make sense at first. They hung in the air like a foreign language I couldn't quite translate. "Not the only what?" "I've been seeing your wife, romantically, for 6 months. But yesterday I saw her leaving the gym with another guy, Derek Paulson. He's another trainer there. They were very familiar with each other. So I confronted her, and she admitted she'd been with him too. For almost as long. When I got upset, she laughed it off, said I was being dramatic. That's when I realized she's probably been lying to you this whole time and you had no idea." My office suddenly felt airless. The contracts on my desk blurred into meaningless shapes. "This is a joke." "I wish it was, sir. I really do. Look, I'm not proud of what I did. When it started, she told me her marriage was basically over, that you two were just staying together for the kids until they graduated. She said you hadn't been intimate in years, that you were emotionally distant. I believed her because I wanted to. But seeing her with Derek, seeing how she just didn't care about any of us, I couldn't let it keep going without you knowing." Why should I believe you? My voice came out harder than I intended, defensive mechanisms kicking in. Because I can prove it. I have text messages, photos. I have dates, times, hotel receipts she left in my car. I'm sending you an email right now with everything. Check your inbox in the next 5 minutes. The address is the one listed on your company website. The line went dead. I sat frozen, staring at my computer screen. My hands were shaking, actually trembling like I'd been out in the cold. Jennifer. My Jennifer. The woman who'd been my girlfriend at UNC Chapel Hill, who'd worn my fraternity pin, who'd cried happy tears when I proposed on the beach at Wrightsville. The mother of my children, Emma and Jack, now 21 and 19. The woman who'd stood beside me through my father's death, through the lean years when I was building my career, through every triumph and setback. My email pinged. The sender was listed as T. Bennett, personalogmail.com. The subject line read, "I'm sorry." I clicked it open with a sense of falling, like stepping off a cliff in the dark. The email contained no text, just a series of attachments. 37 files in total. I opened the first one. It was a photo of Jennifer, unmistakably her, in workout clothes I recognized, standing close to a young man with the kind of physique that came from living in the gym. His hand was on her waist. She was smiling up at him with an expression I hadn't seen on her face in years. Pure, unguarded joy. The second photo showed them kissing in what looked like a parking garage. The third was a screenshot of text messages. Jennifer. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Told R I have a dentist appointment. Tyler. Your place again? Jennifer. Yes, he's in Raleigh all day for meetings. We have until 4. The timestamp was from 3 weeks ago. I remembered that day. I'd called her from the road to check in, and she'd sounded perfectly normal, loving, even. Asked about my drive, reminded me to eat something healthy instead of fast food. I opened another file. More texts, more photos, dates at restaurants I'd never been to, weekend trips I'd never heard about. A pattern of deception so elaborate, so sustained, that it couldn't be anything but intentional. My phone buzzed again. Jennifer. Running late at the gym, grabbing dinner with Ashley after. Don't wait up. Love you. Ashley. Her college roommate. Her supposed best friend. How many times had dinner with Ashley been code for something else? The office felt like it belonged to someone else's life. I stared at my computer screen, at the email Tyler Bennett had sent me 40 minutes ago. 37 files. I'd opened maybe half of them before I had to stop, my hands shaking so badly I could barely control the mouse. A text from Jennifer appeared on my phone. Don't forget Jack's birthday dinner Saturday. Made reservations at that steakhouse he likes. Love you. I set the phone face down on my desk. The thing about discovering your wife has been living a double life is that you can't unknow it. Every memory gets recontaminated. That weekend she went to Asheville with Ashley last month. Had that been real? The dental appointment she'd mentioned last Tuesday? I pulled up our shared calendar, the one we'd maintained religiously for years to coordinate our schedules around the kids' activities, work commitments, all the machinery of our life together. There. Thursday, September 14th. Dentist, 2 p.m. I opened my email and searched for Jennifer's name combined with the word hotel. Gmail's search function had always been good. Maybe too good. 4 results from the past 2 months alone. Confirmation emails for rooms at the Marriott near the airport. The Hilton in Huntersville. A boutique place in Davidson I'd never heard of. all on days when her calendar had shown other commitments. Dentist, lunch with Ashley, yoga class. I felt sick. My desk phone rang. I let it go to voicemail. Through my office window, Charlotte sprawled out in the afternoon haze, all those buildings full of people who probably thought they knew their lives too. Maybe they were all wrong. Maybe we were all just walking around half-blind, trusting in things that didn't exist. I forwarded Tyler's email to my personal Gmail account. Then I forwarded it again to a backup account I'd created years ago for document storage. I downloaded all 37 files to a thumb drive I kept in my desk drawer. Then I uploaded them to 3 different cloud storage services. Only after I'd created 4 separate backups did I allow myself to open the rest of the files. More photos. Jennifer and Tyler at what looked like a park I didn't recognize. Jennifer in a hotel room, wearing lingerie I'd never seen. The timestamp on that one said it was taken 3 weeks ago, on a Wednesday afternoon. I checked the calendar. Grocery shopping and errands, she'd written. Text messages between them, hundreds of them. I forced myself to read chronologically, watching the relationship develop from flirtation to something more. Tyler had been careful, respectful even, in the beginning. I don't usually do this with clients, he'd written early on, but there's something about you. Her response, my husband and I are basically roommates at this point. We're just going through the motions for the kids. They're both in college now anyway. Roommates. Going through the motions. I thought about last Sunday morning, making pancakes together in the kitchen while Jack slept in upstairs. The way she'd laughed when I got batter on my shirt. The way we'd moved around each other with the practiced ease of 2 decades together. Had she been thinking about Tyler then? About Derek? The messages with Derek. Tyler had included those too. Screenshots from Jennifer's phone that he must have taken during one of their sessions. The timeline overlapped. She'd been sleeping with both of them simultaneously, telling each one a different version of the same lies. Derek's messages were different from Tyler's. Cruder. More explicit. I skimmed them quickly, not wanting the images in my head, but needing to know the scope of what I was dealing with. My phone buzzed again. Emma this time. Can you send me that recipe for your chili? Making it for friends this weekend. Our daughter. 21 years old, probably sitting in her apartment near campus, thinking about chili recipes and weekend plans with friends. No idea that her mother had been systematically destroying our family for at least 6 months, probably longer. I typed back, "We'll send tonight. Love you." Then I opened a new browser tab and searched for divorce attorneys in Charlotte. I needed someone good. Someone who specialized in high-asset cases with complex financial situations. Our house was paid off, worth maybe $800,000 in the current market. Retirement accounts. Investment properties. The strip mall development in Gastonia that was finally starting to generate real returns after years of work. I'd built all of that while Jennifer did... What, exactly? I tried to remember what she'd told me about her days. Book club on Tuesdays. Volunteering at the animal shelter on Wednesdays. The gym 3 times a week. Coffee with friends. Errands. The invisible labor of managing a household, she'd called it once when I'd asked why she didn't want to go back to work after the kids left for college. How much of it had been real? I clicked on the website for a firm called Patterson and Associates. The lead attorney, Margaret Patterson, had 30 years of experience and a face that suggested she'd seen every variation of human betrayal. Her bio mentioned she'd been named one of Charlotte's top family law attorneys for the past 5 years running. I picked up my desk phone and dialed before I could talk myself out of it. Patterson and Associates, this is Brenda speaking. I need to schedule a consultation with Margaret Patterson. My voice sounded normal, steady, like I was calling about a real estate contract instead of the implosion of my marriage. Of course. May I ask what this is regarding? Divorce. My wife has been having affairs, multiple affairs. I have documentation. A pause. I see. Ms. Patterson has an opening tomorrow at 10 a.m. or Thursday at 2 p.m. Tomorrow, Wednesday. Jennifer thought I'd be in Gastonia all day checking on the strip mall project. I'd planned to drive out there after lunch, spend the afternoon walking the property with the contractor. Tomorrow at 10 works. May I have your name and contact information? I gave her the details, confirmed the appointment, and hung up. Then I sat there in my 14th floor office, looking out at Charlotte and trying to figure out what I was supposed to do for the next 22 hours. Going home felt impossible. Sitting across from Jennifer at dinner, making small talk about our days, pretending everything was fine, I couldn't do it. But disappearing would raise questions. Jennifer would want to know where I was, why I wasn't answering my phone. She'd get worried. Or she'd pretend to be worried, which was worse somehow. I looked at my watch. 3:47 p.m. Jennifer expected me home by 6:30. I had 2 hours and 43 minutes to figure out how to act normal. My phone rang. Jennifer's name appeared in the screen. I stared at it, watching it vibrate against the desk. 4 rings. 5. It went to voicemail. 30 seconds later, a text. Hey, tried calling? Can you grab milk on the way home? We're out. Milk. She wanted me to buy milk. I picked up the phone and typed, Sure, might be a little late, traffic is bad. Her response came immediately. No problem. Heating up that leftover lasagna anyway. The lasagna I'd made last Sunday. The one we'd eaten together while watching some documentary about national parks. She'd fallen asleep with her head on my shoulder during the Yellowstone segment. I'd covered her with a blanket and finished the episode alone, listening to her breathe. I deleted our text thread without reading it further. Then I opened my desk drawer and pulled out the bottle of bourbon I kept there for client meetings. I poured 2 fingers into my coffee mug and drank it straight, feeling the burn all the way down. Through my office window, the sun was starting its descent toward the horizon. In a few hours, I'd have to go home and sit across from my wife and pretend I didn't know she'd spent the afternoon lying to me. Again. But first, I had files to organize, evidence to catalog, a case to build. I opened my laptop and created a new folder, documentation. Then I started making notes, typing out everything I could remember about the past 6 months. Every business trip Jennifer had encouraged me to take. Every evening she'd suggested I go out with friends. Every weekend she'd been too tired for the beach house. The patterns were there. I just hadn't been looking. I sat in my car in the grocery store parking lot for 20 minutes before I could make myself go inside. The fluorescent lights felt too bright. The normalcy of people pushing carts and comparing produce prices almost obscene. I grabbed milk, the organic kind Jennifer always insisted on, and stood in the checkout line behind a woman arguing about expired coupons. My phone buzzed. Jennifer, again. Can you also grab some of that sourdough from the bakery section? The one with the rosemary? Thanks, babe. Babe. I stared at the word until the letters stopped making sense. Sir? Sir, you can go ahead. The cashier was looking at me with mild concern. I paid, drove home, and walked through our front door at 6:43 p.m. The house smelled like garlic and tomatoes, Jennifer's pasta sauce, the recipe she'd gotten from her grandmother. She was in the kitchen, hair pulled back in a ponytail, barefoot in yoga pants and one of my old college t-shirts. She looked up and smiled when I walked in. Perfect timing. Dinner's almost ready. She crossed the kitchen and kissed my cheek, taking the grocery bag from my hands. Thanks for grabbing this. I would have gone myself, but I got caught up in a conference call that ran long. A conference call. I wondered which hotel room she'd actually been in. Which man's bed? No problem, I heard myself say. My voice sounded normal. How was that possible? How was your day? She was pulling plates from the cabinet, setting the table like she'd done thousands of times before. Fine. The Gastonia deal is moving forward. I loosened my tie, went through the motions of coming home. Yours? Exhausting. She rolled her eyes, draining pasta into a colander. Steam rose around her face. The new marketing campaign is a nightmare. Ashley and I spent 2 hours on the phone trying to sort out the mess the creative team made. Ashley. I filed the name away, made a mental note to ask Margaret Patterson about subpoenaing phone records. I wanted to know if that call had actually happened, or if Ashley was just another convenient fiction. Sounds frustrating, I said. We sat down to dinner at 7 o'clock. Jennifer talked about work, some client presentation, budget concerns, office politics. I nodded in the right places, asked appropriate questions, ate pasta that tasted like cardboard in my mouth. She refilled my wine glass twice. The second time, her hand brushed my shoulder, lingered there for a moment. You seem tired, she said. Everything okay? Just a long day. I met her eyes across the table. Brown eyes I'd looked into for 23 years. I'm fine. She smiled, squeezed my hand. Well, Emma called earlier. She's coming home this weekend. Wants to do laundry and raid our refrigerator. That'll be nice. I wondered if Jennifer would cancel plans with Tyler or Derek, or if she'd just invent some errand that would take her out of the house for a few hours. A dental cleaning. Lunch with Ashley. Grocery shopping that somehow took 4 hours. After dinner, I loaded the dishwasher while Jennifer curled up on the couch with her laptop. I could see her reflection in the kitchen window, typing, smiling at the screen, typing again. I wanted to walk over there, wanted to see who she was messaging. Instead, I wiped down the counters and told her I had some work emails to catch up on. In my office, I closed the door and opened my laptop. The backup files were all still there. Cloud storage, external drive, email to myself. I clicked through them again, forcing myself to look. Photos of Jennifer and Tyler at some restaurant I didn't recognize. Text messages about meeting at the Marriott on West Trade Street. A receipt from a lingerie boutique dated 3 weeks ago. I'd been in Raleigh that day for a site visit. My phone buzzed. Tyler Bennett. I know this doesn't help, but I'm sorry. For what it's worth, I think she really did love you once. She talked about you sometimes. About how you met. I stared at the message, deleted it, blocked the number. At 10:15, Jennifer appeared in the doorway of my office. I'm heading up to bed. You coming? In a bit. I need to finish reviewing these contracts. She crossed the room, leaned down and kissed the top of my head. Don't stay up too late. I listened to her footsteps on the stairs, the sound of water running in the master bathroom, the creak of our bed as she got in. I sat in my office until midnight, then crept upstairs and changed in the dark. Jennifer was asleep, or pretending to be. I lay on my side of the bed, the same side I'd slept on for 23 years, and stared at the ceiling. My alarm went off at 6:30 a.m., Wednesday morning. Jennifer was already in the shower. I got up, got dressed, went through the routine. Coffee. Toast. The morning news playing on the kitchen TV. Jennifer came down at 7, hair wet, wearing a navy blue dress I'd never seen before. Early meeting? I asked. Client breakfast downtown. She grabbed her purse, checked her phone. I'll probably be out most of the morning. Okay. I buttered my toast, didn't look up. I have that thing at 9. What thing? For a second, I almost told her. Almost said I had a meeting with a divorce attorney, that I knew everything, that our marriage was over. Instead, I said, potential investor meeting for the strip mall project. Oh, right. Good luck. She kissed my cheek, and then she was gone. I heard her car start, back out of the driveway, disappear down the street. I sat at the kitchen table for another 10 minutes. Then I dumped my coffee in the sink, grabbed my briefcase, and drove to Margaret Patterson's office. The law firm of Patterson and Associates occupied the 9th floor of a building on Tryon Street. The reception area had dark wood furniture and abstract art on the walls. A woman in her mid-50s with short gray hair and sharp blue eyes came out to meet me at exactly 9 a.m. Mr. Callahan? She extended her hand. Margaret Patterson, please come back to my office. Her office had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. She gestured to a leather chair across from her desk and sat down, folding her hands. I appreciate you seeing me on such short notice, I said. Your email mentioned you had documentation. Her voice was professional, matter of fact. Why don't you walk me through the situation? I opened my laptop and started talking. I told her about Tyler's phone call, about the 37 files of evidence, about the systematic deception. I showed her the photos, the text messages, the hotel receipts. She took notes on a legal pad, asked questions about dates and timelines, about our assets and finances. Do you have children? She asked. 2. Emma's 21, Jack's 19, both in college. She nodded, made another note. And you're certain you want to proceed with divorce? I thought about Jennifer at the kitchen table last night, refilling my wine glass. Jennifer kissing my cheek this morning. Jennifer in hotel rooms with men whose names I'd learned 48 hours ago. Yes, I said. I'm certain. Margaret Patterson set down her pen and looked at me directly. All right, here's what happens next. The consultation with Margaret Patterson lasted 90 minutes. When I walked out of her office at 10:47 a.m., I had a strategy, a timeline, and a sick feeling in my stomach that wouldn't go away. Don't confront her yet, Margaret had said, her pen tapping against her legal pad. I know you want to, but we need to secure your financial position first. Joint accounts, credit cards, access to liquid assets. She could drain everything the moment she knows you're aware. So I didn't confront her. Instead, I went to work. I sat through a conference call about the Gastonia development. I reviewed lease agreements. I responded to emails. And at 12:30 p.m. during my lunch break, I drove to First National Bank and opened a new checking account in my name only. The banker, a woman named Patricia Miller who'd handled our mortgage refinancing 2 years ago, smiled at me across her desk. Just you today? Not Mrs. Callahan? Just me, I said. Separate account for some business expenses. It wasn't technically a lie. Divorce was a business expense, wasn't it? Margaret's retainer alone was $15,000. I transferred half of our joint savings, $47,000, into the new account. Margaret had been clear. North Carolina was an equitable distribution state, and taking half now was defensible. Taking more would look bad in court. The transaction took 8 minutes, 23 years of marriage, and I could dismantle half our shared finances in 8 minutes. I drove back to the office. My phone buzzed at 1:15 p.m. Jennifer, having lunch with Ashley. Want me to grab you something? I stared at the text. Was she really with Ashley? Or was she in a hotel room with Tyler? Or Derek? Or someone else I didn't even know about yet? Robert. No thanks, ate at my desk. Jennifer. You work too hard. Love you. I set the phone down and opened my email. There was a message from Margaret's paralegal, a guy named Brian Foster, with a subject line that read, Initial Document Request. The email contained a list of everything I needed to gather. Tax returns, bank statements, investment account records, mortgage documents, car titles, insurance policies, credit card statements, retirement account information. Anything and everything that established our marital assets. Most of it I could access from home. Jennifer and I kept our important documents in a filing cabinet in the home office, a room we'd set up together 5 years ago when Emma went to college and we'd converted her bedroom. The irony wasn't lost on me. We'd organized our life together so efficiently. Color-coded folders, alphabetized labels, everything in its place. I spent the afternoon compiling documents. I forwarded bank statements to my personal email. I photographed tax returns with my phone. I made a list of every asset I could remember. The house, both cars, Jennifer's IRA, my 401k, the small investment account we'd started for retirement. At 5:30 p.m., I drove home. Jennifer's car was in the driveway. I sat in mine for a moment, hands on the steering wheel, staring at our house. It was a good house. 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, a yard that Jennifer had spent hours landscaping. We'd bought it when Jack was 3, painted it twice, replaced the roof after a hailstorm, built a deck. I wondered if I'd have to sell it. I wondered if I wanted to keep it. I went inside. Hey, Jennifer called from the kitchen. I'm making that chicken thing you like, the one with the lemon and garlic. I found her at the stove, wooden spoon in hand, hair pulled back in a ponytail. She was wearing yoga pants and a fitted tank top, the kind of outfit she wore to the gym, to Elevation Fitness, where she'd met Tyler and Derek. Smells good, I said. She smiled. How was your day? Busy, conference calls. The Gastonia thing is getting complicated. You'll figure it out. You always do. I poured myself a glass of water and leaned against the counter, watching her cook. This woman I'd known for 25 years. This stranger who'd been lying to me for God knows how long. How was lunch with Ashley? I asked. Good. We went to that new place on Park Road. The one with the acai bowls? You'd hate it. Very trendy. She laughed. Ashley's thinking about doing a girls' weekend in Charleston next month. I told her I'd check with you first. Another girls' weekend. Another convenient excuse to be somewhere I wasn't. Sure, I said. When? Probably mid-October. I'll let you know when she nails down dates. I nodded. Took a drink of water. I need to grab some documents from the office tonight. Tax stuff for the accountant. Jennifer glanced over her shoulder. Now, we're about to eat. After dinner, won't take long. Okay. She turned back to the stove. Can you set the table? We ate dinner together. Jennifer talked about her day, a story about someone at the grocery store, something funny she'd seen on social media, a question about whether we should get the gutters cleaned before winter. Normal conversation, domestic and mundane. I responded And the whole time, I thought about the 37 files on my laptop. The photos of her with Tyler. The text messages about hotel rooms and lies. After dinner, I went to the home office while Jennifer loaded the dishwasher. The filing cabinet was in the corner, next to the desk we'd bought from IKEA. I pulled out the drawer labeled Financial and started removing folders. Tax returns from the last 7 years. Mortgage documents. Car titles. Insurance policies. I was photographing a bank statement when Jennifer appeared in the doorway. "Find what you need?" I looked up. She was leaning against the doorframe, dish towel in her hand, completely relaxed. "Yeah," I said. "Just getting organized for tax season." "It's September." "I like to plan ahead," she smiled. "That's my Robert, always prepared." Her Robert. I wondered if Tyler called himself her Tyler, if Derek did. "I'm going to take a bath," she said. "There's ice cream in the freezer if you want some later." "Thanks." She left. I heard her footsteps on the stairs, then the sound of water running in the master bathroom. I kept photographing documents. At 9 p.m., I sent everything to Brian Foster. At 9:30, I received a response. "Got them. This is helpful. Margaret will review and follow up tomorrow." Jennifer came downstairs at 10 once, smelling like lavender soap, wearing the pajamas I'd bought her last Christmas. We watched an hour of television together, some show she liked about people renovating houses. She curled up next to me on the couch, her head on my shoulder. "This is nice," she said during a commercial break. "We should do this more often, just relax together." "Yeah," I said. We went to bed at 11 so. Jennifer fell asleep quickly, her breathing deep and even beside me. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, thinking about Margaret's timeline. 3 to 5 days to gather all the documents, another week to file the divorce petition. Then Jennifer would be served. 10 days, maybe 12, before everything imploded. I could last that long. I could keep pretending. I'd been doing it for 2 days already, and she hadn't noticed anything wrong. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text message at 11:47 p.m. I picked it up carefully, trying not to disturb Jennifer. It was from Tyler. "Tyler, I know I shouldn't contact you again, but I wanted to say I'm sorry for all of it. You deserved better." I stared at the message. This kid, and he was a kid, couldn't be more than 25, felt guilty enough to apologize to the man whose wife he'd been sleeping with. I didn't respond. I deleted the message and set the phone back down. Beside me, Jennifer shifted in her sleep, moving closer, her arm draping across my chest. I didn't move. I barely breathed. And I counted down the days until I could stop pretending. The divorce petition was filed on a Wednesday morning, exactly 11 days after Tyler Bennett's phone call. Margaret Patterson's paralegal served Jennifer at the house while I was supposedly at a property showing in Gastonia. I'd given them the window, 10 a.m. to noon, when I knew Jennifer would be home alone. I got the text from Margaret at 10:47. Served. She signed receipt. I was actually sitting in my car 3 blocks away, parked behind a CVS pharmacy, staring at my phone. My hands were steady. I'd expected to feel something, triumph, vindication, maybe even regret. Instead, there was just a hollow numbness, like Novocaine spreading through my chest. Jennifer called at 10:52. I let it ring. Then again at 10:54. At 10:58, a text. "Robert, call me now." At 11:03. "This is insane. We need to talk." At 11:15. "You can't just do this without talking to me." I drove to my office and sat at my desk, watching my phone light up every few minutes. By noon, she'd called 7 times. I forwarded every voicemail to Margaret without listening to them. At 1:30 p.m., a different kind of message came through. The kids are going to be devastated. Is that what you want? That one I read twice. The audacity of it, using Emma and Jack as leverage, as if I were the one destroying our family. As if the last 6 months of systematic lying and cheating had been my doing. I typed out a response. They'll be more devastated when they learn why. Then I deleted it without sending. Margaret had been clear. No contact, no engagement, no explanations. Let her attorney talk to me, she'd said. Anything you say to her now can only hurt you later. By 3 p.m., Jennifer had apparently retained counsel. Margaret called to tell me she'd received a call from Douglas Whitman at Whitman & Associates, a mid-tier family law firm in South Park. He wants to schedule a mediation, Margaret said. Claims his client is blindsided and wants to understand what precipitated this. What did you tell him? That we're not interested in mediation at this time. That we've filed on grounds of adultery with substantial documentation, and that we'll be pursuing an unequal distribution of marital assets based on your wife's fault. How did he respond? He got very quiet. Then he asked if we'd be willing to share the nature of our evidence before discovery. I told him he'd see everything in due course. I could picture Douglas Whitman sitting in his office, probably getting his first indication that this wasn't going to be a standard he said, she said divorce. Jennifer had likely told him some version of events that painted me as the unreasonable party, the husband who filed without warning or cause. She's going to tell him I'm lying, I said. Let her. We have Tyler Bennett willing to provide a sworn affidavit. We have the photographs, the text messages, the hotel receipts. We have Derek Paulson, who Tyler says will corroborate everything if subpoenaed. Your wife can tell her attorney whatever story she wants. It won't survive discovery. After I hung up, I sat in my office until the sun started to set, watching the shadows lengthen across the Piedmont Building's parking lot. My phone had finally stopped buzzing. Jennifer's last message had come through at 4:17. I never meant to hurt you. 6 words, 23 years, 2 children, and countless promises reduced to 6 words that meant absolutely nothing. I didn't go home that night. Margaret had advised me to stay elsewhere until we had a temporary hearing scheduled, to avoid any potential confrontations that could complicate the proceedings. I'd booked a room at a Courtyard Marriott near the airport. Anonymous, clean, the kind of place where no one asks questions. I ordered takeout from a Thai place down the street and ate it sitting on the edge of the bed, watching cable news with the sound off. My phone sat face down on the nightstand. I'd turned off notifications, but I could still see the screen light up every 20 minutes or so. Jennifer, probably. Maybe Emma or Jack, if she'd already told them her version of events. That thought made my stomach turn. What was she saying to them right now? That I'd abandoned the family? That I was having some kind of midlife crisis? That she'd done nothing wrong and I was being cruel and irrational? I picked up my phone and scrolled to Emma's contact. My thumb hovered over the call button. Then I set it back down. Margaret's voice in my head. No contact. Let the process work. At 9:30 p.m., my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. Local area code. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mr. Callahan? A woman's voice, professional but warm. Speaking. This is Nicole Brennan. I'm a friend of Jennifer's from the gym. I hope you don't mind. She gave me your number. I closed my eyes. Of course she did. Ms. Brennan, I appreciate the call, but I'm not really in a position to— I know this is awkward, she interrupted. And I'm not calling to take sides or get in the middle of anything. Jennifer is really struggling right now, and I'm worried about her. She's at my place and she's pretty upset. I wanted to make sure you knew she was safe. Safe? As if I were the threat. I appreciate you letting me know, I said, keeping my voice neutral. But Jennifer and I are going through a legal separation, and my attorney has advised me not to have any direct or indirect contact. If she needs support, I'm sure she has plenty of friends and family who can help. There was a pause. She said you filed for divorce without any warning, that you just served her papers out of nowhere. Ms. Brennan, I'm sure Jennifer has told you her version of events. I'm not going to argue with it or try to convince you of anything different. This is between Jennifer and me, and it's going to be handled through our attorneys. She says she doesn't know what she did wrong. I felt something sharp and hot rise in my throat. Then I guess she'll have plenty of time to think about it. I hung up before she could respond. For the next hour, I lay on the hotel bed, staring at the ceiling, trying not to imagine what Jennifer was saying to Nicole Brennan right now. The wronged wife, confused and devastated by her husband's sudden cruelty. The victim of some inexplicable abandonment. My phone buzzed again at 11:04. Another unknown number, another local area code. I didn't answer. It buzzed again at 11:23, then 11:41. Jennifer was mobilizing her allies, sending them out to probe and pressure and guilt me into contact. It was strategic, calculated, the same way she'd calculated every fake dental appointment and fabricated lunch with Ashley. At midnight, I finally turned my phone completely off and set it on the bathroom counter, as far from the bed as I could get it. The silence was immediate and absolute. I didn't sleep. I lay there in the dark, listening to the muffled sounds of other guests moving through the hallways, the distant hum of the ice machine, the periodic rumble of planes taking off from the airport. Every sound felt amplified, intrusive, like the world was pressing in on all sides. At 6 a.m., I turned my phone back on. 12 missed calls, 9 text messages, 3 voicemails. I deleted all of them without reading or listening. Then I showered, dressed, and drove to Margaret Patterson's office for our 8 a.m. meeting. We had a temporary hearing scheduled for the following week, and there was work to do. The numbness was still there, settling into my bones like something permanent. But underneath it, barely perceptible, was something else. Something harder and colder. Jennifer wanted to know what she'd done wrong. She was about to find out. The hotel room became my war room. I'd taken Margaret's advice and checked into a Marriott near the office. Neutral territory where I could think without Jennifer's presence in every corner. The first night, I ordered room service and spread everything across the desk. Bank statements, property deeds, tax returns from the last 7 years. My phone buzzed constantly. Jennifer, her mother, Ashley, even Jack, though I suspected Jennifer had put him up to it. I let them all go to voicemail. On the third day, Margaret called with an update. Jennifer's retained counsel, Brian Whitmore from Whitmore and Associates. I knew the name. Whitmore handled high-net-worth divorces and had a reputation for aggressive tactics. What does that tell us? That she's taking this seriously. Also that she's probably told him her version of events. Margaret's tone was dry. I expect we'll receive a response to the petition within the week. In the meantime, I need you to compile a complete list of all marital property, real estate, vehicles, investments, retirement accounts, everything. Already done. I'd spent the previous evening creating a spreadsheet. 23 years of accumulated assets, itemized and valued. Our house in Myers Park, purchased for $385,000 in 2008, now worth approximately $720,000. Jennifer's Lexus SUV, my BMW sedan, my 401k, her inherited IRA from her father. The beach condo in Wrightsville Beach we'd bought as an investment property 5 years ago. Send it over. And Robert? Margaret paused. Expect things to get uglier before they get better. Once Jennifer realizes you have documentation of the affairs, she'll likely shift strategies. I've seen it before. Denial, then anger, then attempts at reconciliation, then scorched earth. She wasn't wrong about the anger. The email arrived on day 5. Not from Jennifer's attorney, from Jennifer herself, sent at 2:34 a.m. Subject: How could you? You didn't even give me a chance to explain. You just threw away 23 years like it meant nothing. I made mistakes, Robert, but so did you. You were never there. Always working, always traveling, always putting your career first. I was lonely. I was dying inside that house, and you didn't even notice. Emma called me crying. She doesn't understand why you won't talk to her. Jack thinks you've had some kind of breakdown. This is destroying our children, and for what? Because you're too proud to have an actual conversation. I loved you. I still love you. Whatever you think happened, whatever lies people told you, we can work through this. But not if you keep hiding behind lawyers and refusing to communicate. Please, just talk to me. J. I read it twice, looking for any acknowledgement of what she'd actually done. Any real apology. There was nothing, just deflection and blame-shifting dressed up as vulnerability. I forwarded it to Margaret without responding. Her reply came within the hour. Don't engage. This is emotional manipulation. She's trying to bait you into direct communication so she can claim harassment or use your words against you later. Everything goes through me. On day 7, Jennifer's attorney filed a response. Margaret sent me the PDF with a warning. Brace yourself. Whitmore had crafted a narrative. According to the response, Jennifer admitted to a brief indiscretion with Tyler Bennett. Singular, brief, already ended. She claimed the relationship had been emotional rather than physical and had occurred during a period of severe marital distress caused by my emotional abandonment and workaholism. The filing requested spousal support, citing Jennifer's role as primary caregiver during our marriage and her limited earning capacity after years of focusing on family. There was no mention of Derek Paulson, no acknowledgement of the 6-month timeline, the hotel rooms, the calculated deception. I called Margaret. This is complete fiction. Of course it is, but it's the opening salvo. She's trying to establish a narrative that makes her sympathetic and you negligent. I heard papers shuffling. This is actually good for us. She's locked herself into a story. When we present the evidence, 37 files worth, it's going to destroy her credibility completely. When does that happen? Discovery. We'll depose her under oath, and she'll have to answer questions about the timeline, the hotel stays, the text messages. If she lies, it's perjury. If she tells the truth, it contradicts everything her attorney just filed. The strategic part of my brain understood the logic. The rest of me just felt sick. That weekend, Emma came home from Chapel Hill. She texted first. Dad, I'm coming to Charlotte. We need to talk. I'll be at the house Saturday at 2. I met her at a coffee shop instead. Neutral ground, public enough that she couldn't make a scene. She arrived 10 minutes late, her face blotchy like she'd been crying. My daughter looked so much like Jennifer at that age it was physically painful to see her. Dad. She sat across from me, hands wrapped around a cup she hadn't ordered. What is happening? Mom says you just filed for divorce out of nowhere. She says you won't even tell her why. Your mother knows exactly why. Then tell me, Emma's voice cracked. Because right now it looks like you've lost your mind. You won't return anyone's calls. You're living in a hotel and Mom is falling apart. Emma. I kept my voice level. I know this is hard, but this is between your mother and me. You're not a child anymore, but you're also not a party to our marriage. I'm your daughter. This affects me too. It affects Jack. Her eyes were wet. We deserve to know what's going on. I wanted to tell her, wanted to lay out every text message, every hotel receipt, every lie her mother had told. But Margaret's voice echoed in my head. Don't put the children in the middle, it will backfire. You'll know everything when it's appropriate for you to know it. Right now, I need you to trust that I have good reasons for what I'm doing. That's not good enough. Emma stood abruptly. Mom was right. You have changed. The dad I knew would never do this to our family. She left before I could respond. Through the window, I watched her get into her car, the Honda Civic we'd bought her for high school graduation, and drive away. My coffee had gone cold. That night, I sat in the hotel room and pulled up the photos Tyler had sent. Jennifer and Derek at a restaurant, his hand on her thigh under the table. Jennifer and Tyler in a hotel hallway, her arms around his neck. Jennifer alone in what was clearly a hotel bed, sheet pulled up, smiling at the camera with an expression I hadn't seen directed at me in years. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Mr. Callahan? A woman's voice, professional. This is Andrea Simmons from First Carolina Bank. I'm calling about some unusual activity on your account ending in 4782. The joint checking account. What kind of activity? 3 large transfers were initiated this morning, totaling $83,000. The account is now overdrawn by approximately $12,000 due to insufficient funds. I wanted to verify these were authorized transactions before we process the overdraft fees. My jaw clenched. What time were the transfers made? The first was at 9:17 a.m., the second at 9:23 a.m., and the third at 9:31 a.m. While I'd been meeting with Emma, while Jennifer had known I'd be occupied, those transfers were not authorized by me. I need to speak to someone about freezing that account immediately. I can help you with that, but since it's a joint account, both parties have equal authority to… I understand. Just freeze it. I'll be there first thing Monday morning. After I hung up, I called Margaret and left a voicemail detailing what had happened. Then I pulled up my bank app and checked the separate account I'd opened. The $47,000 was still there, untouched. At least I'd had the foresight to protect half our savings. But Jennifer had just shown her hand. The grieving, apologetic wife routine was over. Margaret had been right. We'd moved to scorched earth. I poured myself a whiskey from the minibar and opened my laptop. If Jennifer wanted to play dirty, I needed to be ready. I started a new document and began typing everything I could remember about our finances, every asset she might try to hide or drain, every password to every account. It was going to be a long night. The call from my father's attorney came 3 days after Jennifer emptied the joint account. I was sitting in my office, reviewing Margaret's latest filing, when my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Callahan? This is Howard Brennan. I'm calling regarding your father's estate. I'd been expecting this, though not so soon. Dad had passed away 2 months earlier, a massive stroke that took him in his sleep. He'd been 71, still running Brennan and Sons funeral home in Asheville like he had for 43 years. The funeral home his father had started in 1952, the one that bore our family name, even though he'd never legally changed it from Callahan. A handshake agreement between my grandfather and Dad's business partner, Thomas Brennan, back when such things still meant something. "I've finalized the probate," Howard continued. "Your father's will was straightforward. The funeral home passes to you, as discussed. There are some assets: the property, equipment, accounts receivable. I'll need you to come to Asheville to sign the transfer documents." I hadn't set foot in that funeral home since I was 19. Dad had wanted me to take over, had trained me through high school, embalming, cremation procedures, grief counseling, the whole business. But I'd gone to UNC, met Jennifer, discovered I had a talent for commercial real estate. Dad had been disappointed but understanding. He'd hired professional managers to run the day-to-day operations. "I'll be there Friday," I said. Jennifer texted me that evening. "We need to talk about the house. My attorney says we should sell before the divorce finalizes. Better for both of us financially." I deleted it without responding. The drive to Asheville took 3.5 hours. I left Charlotte at 6 in the morning, watching the sun rise over the Blue Ridge Mountains as I climbed into higher elevations. The funeral home sat on a quiet street in the historic district, a Victorian house converted to commercial use decades ago, with a modern addition in the back for the crematorium and preparation rooms. Howard met me in the front parlor at 9:30. He was older than I expected, probably in his late 60s, with silver hair and the kind of patient demeanor that comes from decades of estate work. "Your father was meticulous with his records," he said, spreading documents across the mahogany desk. "The business is profitable. Revenue of about $1.2 million annually. Net profit around $180,000 after all expenses and salaries. The property is worth approximately $850,000. No outstanding debts." I signed where he indicated, barely reading the documents. My mind was elsewhere, on Jennifer's legal maneuvering, on Emma's angry voicemails, on the divorce proceedings that seemed to grow more complicated by the day. "There's one other matter," Howard said. "Your father's manager, Rebecca Stokes, has requested a meeting with you. She seems concerned about something. I told her you'd be here today." Rebecca appeared 10 minutes later. She was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with dark hair pulled back in a professional bun and worry lines etched around her eyes. She'd managed the funeral home for the past 6 years, since Dad's previous manager retired. "Mr. Callahan, thank you for seeing me." She sat down across from me, hands clasped tightly in her lap. "I need to show you something. I didn't want to bring it to your father. His health was already failing. But now that you own the business, you need to know." She pulled out a manila folder, hands trembling slightly. 3 months ago, a family came to me. The Hendersons, their mother had passed away, and we'd handled the cremation and burial at Mountain View Cemetery. They wanted to visit the gravesite, but when they went, they found... She paused. "They found the plot was empty, just grass. No burial vault, no urn, nothing." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "I checked our records," Rebecca continued. "We'd charged them for a bronze urn, a burial vault, the plot at Mountain View, everything. $8,400 total. But when I contacted the cemetery, they had no record of the burial. No plot purchased under that name." She opened the folder, showing me the documentation. The contract we'd signed with the family, the invoice marked paid, the cemetery's records showing nothing. I started looking deeper. I found 6 other cases in the past 18 months. Families who paid for burial plots, urns, vaults. But the cemetery has no record of the burials. A total of $63,000 in services that were never actually performed. My hands had gone numb. Who handled these arrangements? Your father's wife, Rebecca said quietly. Jennifer. The room tilted. What? Jennifer Callahan. She's listed as the family services coordinator in our records. She started working here part-time about 2 years ago. Your father said she wanted to help with the family business, that you were too busy with your real estate work. She handled client consultations, arranged burials, coordinated with the cemetery. I couldn't breathe. Jennifer had never mentioned working at the funeral home, not once in 2 years. There's more, Rebecca said. The cemetery manager is a man named Craig Vickers. I did some checking. He and Jennifer have been close. Very close. I've seen them together at the cemetery and it didn't look professional. Another affair. Of course. Show me everything, I said. Rebecca's records were devastating. 7 families, all told they were purchasing burial plots at Mountain View Cemetery. All charged premium prices for urns, vaults, and interment services. But Mountain View's records showed no corresponding burials. The plots Jennifer had sold didn't exist. Where are the remains? I asked. Rebecca's face went pale. I think they were scattered, or I don't know. I checked our cremation logs against the death certificates. The cremations happened. I can verify that. But what happened to the ashes afterward, I can't say. I thought of the families who'd stood in our parlor, grieving, trusting us with their loved ones. Who'd paid thousands of dollars to lay their dead to rest with dignity. Who visited empty plots believing their mothers and fathers and children were buried there. I need to see the cemetery, I said. We drove to Mountain View in Rebecca's car. It was a sprawling place, rolling hills dotted with headstones and monuments. Craig Vickers met us at the main office, a lean man in his 50s with sun-weathered skin and an easy smile that faltered when he saw my expression. Mr. Callahan, I'm sorry for your loss. Your father was a good man. Show me the Burton plot, I said. Section C, Lot 247. That's what we sold to the family. Craig's smile disappeared entirely. There is no Lot 247 in Section C. That section only goes to 220. The Martinez plot. Section F, Lot 118. Section F is reserved for veterans. We don't sell those plots privately. I went through all 7. Every single plot Jennifer had sold was either non-existent or already occupied by someone else. Craig's face grew paler with each one. I didn't know, he said finally. Jennifer handled the paperwork, said she was coordinating with your father. I never thought to verify. You were sleeping with her, I said flatly. He flinched. That was personal. It had nothing to do with business. Show me the financial records. Every payment you received from Brennan and Sons for burial plots in the past 18 months. His hands shook as he pulled up the computer records. The total came to $23,000, less than half what Jennifer had charged the families. The rest had gone somewhere else. Into her pocket, presumably. Or maybe into hotel rooms with Craig, or Tyler, or Derek. She told me the families wanted simple burials, Craig said weakly. No vaults, no markers yet. She said they'd add those later. I trusted her. I thought about Jennifer's girls' weekends, her dental appointments. All those hours unaccounted for. She hadn't just been having affairs. She'd been running a fraud operation out of my father's funeral home, desecrating the dead, stealing from grieving families. And she'd done it with the same systematic deception she'd used to hide her affairs. Fake paperwork, elaborate lies, exploiting trust. "I'm calling the state licensing board," I said, "and the police. Both of you need to start thinking about attorneys." Craig's face crumbled. "Please, I didn't know what she was doing. I swear I didn't know." Maybe he was telling the truth. Maybe he was just another fool who'd believed Jennifer's lies. I didn't care anymore. I drove back to Charlotte that evening with Rebecca's documentation in a box on my passenger seat. 7 families. 7 sets of remains that had vanished. Thousands of dollars in fraud, and Jennifer's name on every single contract. My phone buzzed as I crossed into Mecklenburg County. A text from Jennifer. "Robert, please. We can work this out. For the kids' sake." I pulled over at a rest stop and called Margaret Patterson. "I need to add something to the divorce filing," I said, "and then I need you to connect me with the North Carolina State Board of Funeral Service. We have a much bigger problem than adultery." The drive from Asheville back to Charlotte felt longer than the 3 hours it actually took. I kept both hands on the wheel, eyes on the road, but my mind kept circling back to those ledgers, those names, those families who'd trusted Jennifer with their grief. 7 families. $63,000. And God only knew where their loved ones' remains had actually ended up. I pulled into my apartment complex just after 9 p.m. The 1-bedroom rental in South End wasn't much, a far cry from the house in Myers Park that Jennifer still occupied, but it was mine. No memories haunted these walls, no photographs documented lies. I'd taken the ledgers with me. Rebecca had made copies for her records, but I needed the originals. Evidence. Proof of what my wife had become, or maybe what she'd always been and I'd been too blind to see. Inside, I spread everything across the dining table I'd bought at IKEA 3 weeks ago. The ledgers, the contracts, the receipts showing payments to Meadowbrook Cemetery that never made it into the funeral home's accounts. And at the center of it all, the list of 7 names. Patricia Holbrook. Died March 2022. Cremation. Burial plot purchased at Meadowbrook. $8,500 paid. James Whitfield. Died June 2022. Cremation. Burial plot purchased at Meadowbrook. $9,200 paid. Dorothy Scott. Died August 2022. Cremation. Burial plot purchased at Meadowbrook. $7,800 paid. The list continued. The most recent was from 2 months ago, Robert Gonzalez, which gave me a dark laugh. Same first name as me. His family had paid $10,200 for services they'd never actually received. I pulled out my phone and stared at it. Margaret Patterson's number was in my recent calls. She'd handled the divorce with cold efficiency, but this went beyond marital assets and adultery. This was criminal. My finger hovered over her contact, then moved to a different name instead. The phone rang 4 times before he picked up. "Callahan? It's almost 10 o'clock. David Wright had been my father's attorney for 30 years. He'd handled the will, the estate, the transfer of the funeral home into my name. He was 72, semi-retired, and the only lawyer I knew who'd actually met my father more than twice. "I need advice," I said. "Legal advice. About the funeral home." A pause. "What kind of trouble are we talking about?" "The kind that involves the state licensing board, possibly the police, and definitely multiple lawsuits." Another pause, longer this time. "I'll be at my office at 8 tomorrow morning. Bring everything." The line went dead. I set the phone down and looked at the names again. 7 families. I tried to imagine what they'd been going through when they contacted Serenity Rest. The raw grief, the exhaustion of funeral planning, the vulnerability of needing someone else to handle the details because you simply couldn't. And Jennifer had looked them in the eye, taken their money, and lied. My phone buzzed. A text from Emma. Mom says you're trying to destroy her, that you're making up lies to avoid paying what you owe in the divorce. Is that true? I stared at the message for a long moment. 21 years old, my daughter, smart enough to get into Wake Forest, naive enough to believe her mother's version of events. I'd shown her the evidence of the affairs, the photos, the messages, the hotel receipts. She'd looked at them and said, "People make mistakes, Dad. You're being vindictive." I typed back, "Ask your mother about Serenity Rest Funeral Home. Ask her what she did there for the past 2 years." The response came fast. "What are you talking about? Just ask her." I turned the phone face down and went back to the ledgers. David Wright's office was in one of Charlotte's older buildings downtown, the kind with marble floors and brass fixtures that had seen better decades. His secretary, a woman named Helen who'd been with him since the Reagan administration, showed me into his office at exactly 8 a.m. David sat behind a desk that looked older than both of us combined, reading glasses perched on his nose. He gestured to the chair across from him. "Show me." I laid it all out. The ledgers, the contracts, the receipts, the list of 7 names. He read through everything with the methodical patience of a man who'd spent 5 decades reviewing documents. "Your wife was the operations manager?" he asked. "According to Rebecca, yes, for 2 years. I had no idea she was even working there." "And this Craig Vickers manages Meadowbrook Cemetery?" "That's what Rebecca said." David removed his glasses and rubbed his eyes. "Robert, what you're describing is fraud, embezzlement, and potentially corpse desecration under North Carolina General Statute 14401-22. These are serious criminal charges." "I know." "You understand that once you report this, there's no taking it back? Your wife will likely face felony charges. The funeral home will be investigated. Your father's legacy—" "My father's legacy is already destroyed," I said. "Jennifer did that when she started this scheme. I'm just trying to make sure these families get some kind of justice." David nodded slowly. "The first call needs to be to the North Carolina Board of Funeral Service. They regulate funeral homes and have investigative authority. After that, the Asheville Police Department. They'll likely bring in the State Bureau of Investigation given the nature of the crimes." "What about the families?" "They'll need to be notified, but that should come through official channels. The licensing board will handle it as part of their investigation." He paused. "You should also know that the funeral home's license will almost certainly be suspended pending investigation. The business will effectively shut down." "Rebecca's already preparing for that." "Good." David pulled a legal pad toward him and began writing. "I'm going to make some calls. You need to be prepared for this to get ugly. Jennifer will claim you're retaliating because of the divorce. Her attorney will paint you as vindictive. The media will probably get involved once charges are filed." "Let them," I said. "I've got the documentation." "Documentation helps, but this will still be hell." He looked up at me. "Are you ready for that?" I thought about Patricia Holbrook's family, believing their mother was resting peacefully in a plot at Meadowbrook. About James Whitfield's children, who'd probably visited an empty grave. About 6 other families who'd been lied to during the worst moments of their lives. "I'm ready," I said. David picked up his phone and dialed. "Let me talk to the licensing board first. We'll need to file a formal complaint, but I can give them a heads up that something significant is coming." I sat back and listened as he made the call, speaking in the careful, precise language of legal professionals. He mentioned my name, the funeral home's name, and the phrase, multiple instances of potential regulatory violations and fraud. When he hung up, he looked at me with something that might have been sympathy. They want to see you this afternoon, 2 p.m. at their office in Raleigh. Bring everything, the ledgers, the contracts, all of it. I'll be there. Robert. He leaned forward. Once this starts, your life is going to be examined. Jennifer's attorney will dig into everything. Your finances, your relationship, anything they can use to discredit you. Are there any skeletons in your closet I should know about? I thought about it. 23 years of marriage. 2 decades of playing by the rules, being the reliable one, the steady one. The fool. No, I said. I've got nothing to hide. Good. Because they're going to look anyway. He stood up, signaling the meeting was over. Go home. Get your affairs in order. This afternoon in Raleigh is just the beginning. After the licensing board, there'll be police interviews, possibly a grand jury. It's going to consume your life for the next several months. I gathered up the documents and shook his hand. Thank you, David. Don't thank me yet, he said. We haven't gotten to the hard part. The North Carolina Board of Funeral Service moved faster than I expected. Within 2 weeks of my meeting in Raleigh, they'd suspended Serenity Rest's license and launched a full investigation. The Asheville Police Department opened a criminal case 3 days after that. By the end of October, Jennifer had been charged with 7 counts of obtaining property by false pretenses, 3 counts of embezzlement, and 2 counts of unlawful removal of human remains. The local news picked it up first. Funeral home manager charged in cremation scam. Then the Charlotte Observer, then the regional networks. Jennifer's mugshot appeared on the evening news, her face carefully composed, no trace of the woman who used to smile at me over morning coffee. Craig Vickers took a plea deal almost immediately, testifying that Jennifer had orchestrated everything and he'd been manipulated. The prosecutor didn't buy it entirely, but his cooperation helped locate 5 of the 7 sets of remains. They'd been scattered in a wooded area behind the cemetery, just dumped there like trash. 2 families never got their loved ones back. The ashes were simply gone. The civil lawsuits came next. All 7 families sued the funeral home, Jennifer personally, and initially me as the owner. David Wright managed to get me dismissed from most of them by demonstrating I'd had no knowledge of Jennifer's activities and had reported the fraud immediately upon discovery. The funeral home's insurance covered some of the settlements, but not all. I ended up selling the property and liquidating the business to pay the rest. My father's legacy, 43 years of honest service to grieving families, reduced to a check and a for sale sign. The divorce proceeded in parallel. Margaret Patterson had been right about the documentation. Once we entered discovery and Jennifer was deposed under oath, her attorney's carefully constructed narrative collapsed. She admitted to the affair with Tyler, then Derek, then Craig. Under questioning, 3 more names emerged. 5 men total over 2 years, not counting whatever had happened before that I'd never discovered. The judge was not sympathetic. In North Carolina, adultery is still grounds for an unequal distribution of marital assets. Combined with Jennifer's criminal charges and the financial damage to the funeral home, the final settlement gave me 70% of everything. The house, most of the retirement accounts, the beach condo. Jennifer got her car, a portion of her IRA, and enough cash to hire a criminal defense attorney. She tried to fight it, filed motion after motion, claimed I'd fabricated evidence, accused me of vindictiveness. But the text messages were real. The hotel receipts were real. The 7 families whose loved ones she'd stolen from were devastatingly real. The criminal trial happened in March, 8 months after Tyler Bennett's phone call. I sat in the courtroom gallery and watched Jennifer take the stand in her defense. She cried, real tears, I think, and talked about feeling unappreciated in our marriage, about the pressure of living up to my father's expectations at the funeral home, about making terrible choices she couldn't take back. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced her to 6 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 4. Jennifer's attorney filed an appeal, but David Wright said it wouldn't go anywhere. The evidence was too strong, the crimes too clear. Emma stopped speaking to me entirely. She'd attended every day of her mother's trial, sitting in the front row, glaring at me whenever our eyes met. After the verdict, she sent me a single text. I hope you're happy now. I tried to explain, tried to make her understand that I hadn't done this to Jennifer. Jennifer had done it to herself, to those families, to all of us. But Emma had chosen her narrative and I wasn't part of it. Jack was different. He came to see me one night in April, 3 weeks after the sentencing. We sat in my apartment. I'd moved to a better place in Dilworth by then, and drank beer in silence for 20 minutes before he finally spoke. I read the trial transcripts, he said. All of them. The stuff about the funeral home, the families, the everything. I didn't say anything. I keep thinking about how I didn't know, he continued. I lived in that house for 19 years and I had no idea who she really was, what she was capable of. Neither did I said. He looked at me then, really looked at me. Are you okay? It was the first time anyone had asked me that. Not my attorney, not my friends, not even David Wright. Everyone assumed I was fine because I'd won the divorce, won the case, won some kind of vindication. No, I said. I'm not okay, but I will be. Jack nodded. Yeah, me too. We finished our beers and talked about other things, his classes, his girlfriend, whether he should change his major. Normal father-son conversation, the kind we used to have before everything imploded. When he left, he hugged me at the door. It was brief, awkward, but real. Thanks, Dad, he said, for telling the truth, even though it sucked. Jennifer served 3 years and 2 months before making parole. I heard about her release through David Wright, who'd kept tabs on the case. She moved to Raleigh, took a job doing data entry for an insurance company, the only work she could get with a felony record. Emma moved there too, sharing an apartment with her mother, still convinced I was the villain in this story. I sold the house in Myers Park. Too many memories, too many ghosts. I bought a smaller place in Plaza Midwood, close to work, with a yard big enough for the dog I'd always wanted, but Jennifer had vetoed. A rescue mutt named Charlie who didn't care about my past or my mistakes. The funeral home property sold to a developer who turned it into condos. I drove past it once, saw the construction crews tearing down the Victorian facade my grandfather had restored in 1952. I didn't drive past again. Margaret Patterson sent me a final bill and a note. Glad we could get you through this. Take care of yourself. I paid it and filed all the documents in a box in my closet. Someday I'd probably throw them away, but not yet. Tyler Bennett sent me a message on Facebook 2 years after everything ended. Just 2 sentences. I'm sorry for my part in destroying your life. I hope you found peace. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say to him. He'd been young and stupid and believed a liar. I couldn't hate him for that. I'd done the same thing for 23 years. 5 years after that phone call in September, I was sitting in my backyard with Charlie when Jack called. He was 24 now, working for a tech company in Austin, engaged to a woman named Sophie I'd met twice and liked both times. "Hey, Dad, got a minute?" "Always." Sophie and I set a date, June 15th. "We're doing it in Austin, keeping it small. I wanted to make sure you'd be there." "Of course I'll be there." A pause. "Mom's not invited. I wanted you to know that. Emma's upset about it, but it's my wedding, and I get to decide who's there." "Jack, you don't have to." "Yeah, I do. You were right about everything, Dad. It took me a long time to see it, but you were right. You didn't destroy our family." "She did. And I'm not pretending otherwise just to make Emma feel better." My throat felt tight. "I appreciate that, son. I mean it. You did the right thing, even when it was hard. Even when it cost you everything. That matters." After we hung up, I sat in the yard until the sun went down, Charlie's head resting on my foot. I thought about everything I'd lost. My marriage, my daughter's love, my father's business, my faith in the person I'd shared 2 decades of my life with. But I'd gained something too. The truth, for whatever that was worth. The knowledge that when everything fell apart, I hadn't looked away. I'd faced it, documented it, and made sure those 7 families got at least some measure of justice. I thought about Patricia Holbrook and James Whitfield and Dorothy Scott and all the others whose names I'd memorized. Their families would never get those years back, would never stop wondering what really happened to their loved ones' remains. But they knew the truth now. They knew they hadn't been crazy or mistaken. They'd been wronged, and someone had been held accountable. It wasn't redemption. It wasn't healing. It was just the cold, hard satisfaction of knowing that actions have consequences, that lies eventually unravel, and that sometimes, not always, but sometimes, the truth actually matters. The lesson, if there was one, wasn't about trust or love or the sanctity of marriage. It wasn't about forgiveness or moving forward or finding closure. Those are the lessons people want to hear, the ones that make painful stories bearable. The real lesson was simpler and harder. Some people will lie to your face for years. Some people will steal from the grieving and sleep soundly at night. Some people will destroy everything you've built and then blame you for the destruction. And when you discover who they really are, you have a choice. Look away and preserve the comfortable fiction, or face the truth and accept the cost. I'd chosen the truth. It had cost me a daughter, a marriage, my father's legacy, and any illusion that good people don't do terrible things. But I could look at myself in the mirror. I could sleep at night. And when my son got married in June, I'd walk into that wedding with my head up, knowing I'd done the right thing even when it destroyed me. That was the only redemption I was going to get. And somehow, 5 years later, it was enough. Charlie shifted against my leg, and I scratched behind his ears. The stars were coming out over Charlotte, the same stars that had been there 23 years ago when I'd believed I knew my life, my wife, my future. I didn't believe in certainty anymore, but I believed in truth. And in the end, that was all anyone really had.